Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining William Osler Health Systems Telephone Town Hall. My name is Gurjeet Corbin. I'm a member of the Osler's Patient and Family Advisory Council. I'm delighted to moderate Osler's Community Telephone Town Hall this evening. Please note that tonight's call is being recorded and will be available on Osler's website within a few days. Before we begin, I would like to first acknowledge that Indigenous peoples are the original caretakers of this land, now known as Peel and Etobicoke. This is the ancestral territory of the Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Much of Osler's work takes place in the traditional territory and the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. As visitors in this territory, we at Osler would like to express our gratitude to the Mississauga people of the New Credit First Nation, the descendants of the Credit First Nation. Osler would also like to respectfully acknowledge the diverse community of Indigenous peoples representing a multitude of distinct nations who currently live, work, and play in this territory. We would like to express our commitment to honoring Indigenous communities and nations across the territories now known as Canada. Tonight, Osler's senior leaders will share important hospital updates, including more about the exciting transformation of Peel Memorial into Brampton's new hospital, plans for a comprehensive cancer care center at Brampton Civic Hospital, and much more. As part of this interactive event, we look forward to engaging in meaningful two-way communication with you, our community, either on the phone or through our website. From my experience as a volunteer patient and family advisor, I know Osler's leaders are committed to truly listening and learning from us all. Throughout this evening's town hall, I will also be asking you a few polling questions, which you can easily respond to using your phone. I will provide more details on how to do this shortly. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Osler senior leaders joining us this evening. First, we have Stuart Johnston, Board Director and the Chair of the Board's Governance and Human Resources Committee. We also have Dr. Frank Martino, President and CEO, Tony Razzo, Vice President, Clinical Services, Anne Ford, Executive Vice President, Corporate Services and Integrated Health Systems, Mary Jane McNally, Chief Patient Experience Officer, and Ken Mayhew, President and CEO, Osler Foundation. Over the next hour, you will have several chances to ask questions. To be placed in the queue to ask a question, please press *3 on your phone at any time. We will get to as many questions as we can, both on the phone and those who have been submitted through Osler's website in advance of today's call. For those callers who we cannot respond to during the live event, I will provide instructions at the end of the call on how to leave your question with us so Osler can get back to you. To those just joining us, welcome to William Osler Health Systems Community Telephone Town Hall. I would now like to invite Stuart Johnston, member of Osler's Board of Directors, to say a few words.
Thank you, Gurjeet, and good evening, everyone. I am honored to be part of tonight's event and to be able to speak with you all this evening. Thank you to Osler's leadership for creating the opportunity to connect with our community. These are tremendously important discussions, and I look forward to hearing everyone's comments. Similar to many of you on this line this evening, I too am a resident of Brampton, and I have been for most of my life. I went to school here, and both of my daughters were born in the former Peel Memorial Hospital. I have been with Osler's Board of Directors since 2020, and as part of my involvement with the board, I am also chair of the Governance and Human Resources Committee. As part of this committee, I help oversee the governance of our organization and make recommendations to the board on different topics such as bylaws, board performance, risk management, and human resources. Before my colleagues share their updates, I want to take a moment to express the immense pride I have in Osler and our community. Since I joined Osler's board, I have witnessed firsthand the steadfast dedication of staff, physicians, and volunteers to look after those who seek care at our hospitals. On behalf of the entire Osler board, I want to offer my gratitude to the hospital staff, physicians, and volunteers for their commitment to caring and going beyond for patients and families. The past 3 years have definitely been a challenging time for everyone, but we have come together as a community. I'm looking forward to the exciting times that lay ahead for Osler, including the redevelopment projects, the partnership with Toronto Metropolitan University to bring a new School of Medicine to Brampton, and many more. Thank you very much, and I will now pass it back to Gurjeet.
Thank you for your leadership, Stuart, and for your kind words. For those who have just joined us, if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, press *3 on your phone. This will bring you into the question queue to speak with one of Osler's leaders. We kindly ask that you keep your question brief so that we could get to as many as possible. I would now like to ask Dr. Frank Martino, Osler's President and CEO, to say a few words.
Thank you, Gurjeet, and thank you for being with us again to host this important event. I know you're a strident Toronto Maple Leaf fan, and like many on the line tonight, people will be multitasking, listening to my team here and enjoying this town hall and watching the next game as the Toronto Maple Leafs make their way to the Stanley Cup. Go Leafs! Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Frank Martino, Osler's President and CEO. Opportunities like tonight are so important. We get to hear about your experience and hear what is important to our community and how we can make Osler an even stronger organization. Your comments, questions, and feedback shape everything we do. Osler healthcare teams continue to work diligently to respond to the changing needs of the community and to ensure that patients receive the quality care they need. While capacity pressures remain our reality, similar to many other hospitals in the province, we continue our recovery from the pandemic, and we will come out stronger and more resilient. Despite the challenges, our amazing staff, physicians, and volunteers have been unwavering in their commitment to innovative healthcare delivered with compassion. Earlier this year, Osler was recognized as a Choosing Wisely Canada hospital for having demonstrated organizational leadership in reducing the overuse of low-value tests, treatments, or procedures that do not improve patient care. Osler is one of only 2 healthcare organizations in the country to have received this designation. This is just one example, and my colleague Tony Razzo, Vice President of Clinical Services, will share other achievements when he speaks shortly. We have also been moving forward with the transformation of Peel Memorial into Brampton's new hospital, and with the planning for a comprehensive cancer care center at Brampton Civic Hospital. Ann Ford, Osler's Executive Vice President, Corporate Services and Integrated Health Systems, will provide more details on these exciting projects. Another exciting project I want to mention is our partnership with the Toronto Metropolitan University to enable a new School of Medicine located in Brampton and to train the physicians of the future within Brampton and across the region for generations to come. Osler also already has a strong history of training physicians and clinicians, and we look forward to building on that solid foundation. We also continue to work with TMU and the Ontario government on our transformation from a multi-site community hospital into an academic health center to support our work in enabling the School of Medicine as its primary affiliate. As an academic health center, I believe Osler can significantly expand its focus on medical education and health research to further improve care and ultimately support better outcomes for our patients. Now, with the flu season behind us and the number of COVID-19 cases stabilizing, my colleague, Mary Jane McNally, will also speak to what this means for Osler patients and their loved ones. I look forward to that presentation, Mary Jane. And last but not least, my colleague, Ken Mayhew, Osler Foundation President and CEO, will provide an update on the community's continued, very inspiring efforts to support our hospitals. Before I turn it back over to Gurjeet, I want to thank our staff, physicians, volunteers, and our community health partners who continue to work tirelessly to care for our patients. Thank you again for joining us tonight. And I now hand it back to you, Gurjeet.
Thank you, Dr. Martino. For those who have just joined us, if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, press *3 on your phone. This will bring you into the question queue to speak with one of Osler's leaders. We kindly ask that you keep your questions brief so that we can get to as many as possible. I would now like to ask Tony Razzo, Vice President, Clinical Services at Osler, to share some important hospital updates.
Thank you, Gurjeet. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be here tonight for my first Osler telephone town hall. As Dr. Martino mentioned, our remarkable staff, physicians, and volunteers have been steadfast in their commitment to provide innovative, compassionate, and quality care to our community. A great example of these efforts is the recent implementation and accreditation of the Butterfly approach in the acute care for the elderly unit at Brampton Civic Hospital, making Osler the first acute care health system in the world to implement this revolutionary approach to care. The Butterfly approach is an emotion-based, person-centered model of care for patients living with dementia. It recognizes that patients' emotional needs are as important as their physical needs, and staff have a strong focus on the patient's personal history, not just their medical condition. You can find out more about the Butterfly approach on our website in the news section, as we receive significant media coverage for this world first. After being accredited with exemplary standing last year from Accreditation Canada, I'm also very proud to recognize our teams for achieving other successful accreditations. Osler's oncology and palliative care programs were recognized by the European Society of Medical Oncology for providing highly integrated services for our patients. Osler is the only Canadian community hospital and one of only 3 centers in Canada with this designation. During the pandemic, Osler's cardiac rehab team and patients who needed rehab after a heart attack had to temporarily switch to virtual education sessions instead of in person. We noticed that during the virtual sessions, language barriers were decreased, as many patients had someone join in to help interpret or explain the education session to them. Today, the team offers a hybrid program. While physical rehabilitation sessions are back to in-person, the team continues to deliver the education sessions virtually to benefit patients. Our sincere gratitude goes to all of those who have been adaptable and contributed to all of these accomplishments. Osler's emergency departments, urgent care center, and other departments continue to experience high volumes and see more seriously ill patients. To make sure your family gets the care they need, we would like to remind you about the options for care available to you depending on your symptoms. If you have life-threatening emergency or aren't sure, call 911 for an ambulance. Always go to the emergency department for emergencies such as severe shortness of breath or chest pain. Pregnant women should always go to the emergency department after their second trimester. Our urgent care center at Peel Memorial is a great option for less serious conditions such as sprains, broken bones, and cuts needing stitches, and is open 24/7. All of this information and more is on Osler's website. And lastly, for those interested in a rewarding career in joining a leading team, please visit our website for more details on current job openings and see how you can serve your community through a career at Osler. I want to thank you all for the encouragement you've provided our staff and physicians over the past 3 years. We are so very fortunate to have such a supportive and engaged community. I will now pass it back to Gurjeet. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. As I mentioned earlier, I will be asking you a few polling questions this evening to invite your input on some topics of interest. First, we'd like to know, if you or a family member were sick and required medical assistance, do you know your options for care in our community? Press 1 if your answer is yes, I'm aware of the options and know where to go depending on my symptoms. Press 2 if your answer is I know there are a few options, but I'm not sure where to go for care. Press 3 if your answer is no, I do not know my options. Let me repeat the question and your response choices. The question is, if you or a family member were sick and required medical assistance, do you know your options for care in our community? Press 1 if your answer is, yes, I'm aware of the options and I know where to go depending on my symptoms. Press 2 if your answer is, I know there are a few options, but I'm not sure where to go for care. Press 3 if your answer is, no, I do not know my options. Please enter your response on your phone now. I will share the results shortly. We will now begin to take your questions. For those who have just joined the telephone town hall, if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, press *3 on your phone. This will bring you into the question queue to speak with one of Osler's leaders. We kindly ask that you keep your question brief so that we can get to as many questions as possible. We will now begin by taking your questions. Our first question is from Eddie.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My question is, what are you doing to reduce the wait times in the emergency department? From triage to intake to the other parts of it, it's hours, and I've spent more than 8 hours. I almost lost my daughter there. So what are the steps you're taking to improve that patient experience? Please and thank you.
Thank you for your question, Eddie. It's Dr. Martino. What I can say is in the emergency department, the sickest patients are seen first. If you need immediate medical care, you'll be prioritized and you will be seen. If you have a life-threatening medical emergency, that will be seen immediately. We all encourage patients to seek the best option for their condition. You know, like many other hospitals across Ontario, Osler is currently seeing higher volumes of sicker patients in our emergency department. Our staff, our physicians, our volunteers, they're actually working extremely hard to ensure that the community continues to receive the care it needs and it deserves, like you and your daughter. Osler has emergency departments at our Etobicoke site, at our Brampton site, and an urgent care center at Peel Memorial. We have wait time clocks available on our website to support real-time information on predicted wait times to receive care. We really appreciate the community's patience and understanding as our teams work hard to provide care to all patients. So to help people remember and make informed decisions about the best place to get care for your situation, please visit Osler's website. And remember that if you have a life-threatening emergency, such as shortness of breath, chest pain, or significant abdominal pain, and you're not sure, call 911 and go to the nearest emergency department. We encourage pregnant women, they should always go to the emergency department if they have a health emergency while pregnant. And remember, our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week urgent care center at Peel Memorial is now 24 hours, 7 days a week. So if you have, it's a great option. If you don't have a serious condition, but you have a sprain, a broken bone, cuts that need suturing, please use the urgent care center. Finally, I want to make a comment. There have been a lot of studies looking at emergency departments and the wait times in those emergency departments. We're proud that at our Etobicoke General site, we actually have one of the shortest wait times in the province for a large size emergency department. For very large emergency departments like Brampton Civic, we actually rank at the median for Ontario. We're not the slowest and that we're not the fastest, but we're able to say that we hold our own. So I encourage you to use our emergency departments. They have dedicated staff that are there to help you.
Eddie, it's Mary Jane. I'm also going to add to what's already been said. I'm the Chief Patient Experience Officer, and I really appreciate you asking a question about patient experience. So what I wanted to add is that we have an actual special team in the emergency department called our Patient Concierge Team, and they are there as a team to help patients and families help navigate the emergency department, help make the care more efficient, but also more empathetic. We're measuring how empathetic and caring we are for patients and how confident patients and their families are feeling with our care experience. So I want you to know that there's an extra set of staff in the emergency department that helps move things along. And we're really focusing on making sure that patients and families have the information they need before they leave. So really want to thank you for your question. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Thank you, Dr. Martino. Our next question is for Anne, and we have Andrew on the line. Good evening, Andrew.
This is Andrew Doherty. When are you guys building the new building near the hospital? Soon, or is it down the road?
Hi, Andrew, this is Anne, and thanks for your question. And yes, we are in the process of planning the new hospital. I'll be speaking to that in just a few minutes. The new building here at the hospital will be located on the northwest corner of our property, which is off of John Street and Lynch Street. And it will be a multi-storied building on that site. And we chose this site because it really offers the best and most direct connections to the existing building. And that way we can have both patients and staff moving between both buildings, and really will provide the best benefits to patient care and experience for someone coming into our hospital. I will speak in just a few minutes a little bit more about the building itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Our next question is an online question from Krishna. Krishna is asking, my wife is 25 weeks pregnant. If she has a pregnancy-related emergency, should I take her to urgent care center? And that question I will pass on to Tony, if you could help us.
Hi, Krishna. Good evening. First of all, congratulations, and I sincerely hope your wife doesn't need emergency care during her pregnancy. But if she does, she should go to the labor and delivery unit she is registered with or to the closest emergency department. The urgent care center is not recommended for women who are in the later stages of their pregnancy and who require emergency care. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Our next question is also an online question. This is for Frank, and we have a question from Lily. Lily asks, can you please provide an update on private clinics performing surgeries?
Thank you for the question, Lily, and I'm sure that this has been on people's minds. It certainly has been in the news since the provincial government has opened the door to private clinics, but with some degree of caution and regulation. You know, at Osler, patients are at the center of everything we do. Osler has been gradually resuming surgeries along with diagnostic imaging and scheduled ambulatory clinics. With Osler and the communities we serve being among the hardest hit by the pandemic, our recovery has taken longer. But we have continued to be here when our community needed us, delivering, in my eyes, exceptional care during the pandemic and after the pandemic. As we recover, we welcome every means and measure possible to ensure our patients continue to receive the care they need. And yes, this includes the exploration of partnerships with community surgical and diagnostic centers to eliminate surgical backlogs and reduce wait times. So we will be exploring those opportunities, but they must be right for our patients.
Thank you, Dr. Martino. Our next comment comes from Sue-Ann, and Sue-Ann is commenting on the, she would like to thank all of the staff. She had recently had a great experience with a triple bypass and a pacemaker and would like to thank all of the staff at Osler. Thank you so much, Sue-Ann, for your comment. We would now like to announce the results from our first polling question. Our first question was, if you or a family member were sick and required medical assistance, do you know your options for care in our community? The results of the poll are 52% said, yes, I'm aware of the options and know where to go depending on my symptoms. 26% said, I know there are a few options, but I'm not sure where to go for care. And 22% said, no, I do not know my options. Thank you for this helpful input. Your ideas and feedback are always important to us. I would now like to introduce Ann Ford, Executive Vice President, Corporate Services and Integrated Health Systems, who will share the latest on Osler's redevelopment projects.
Thank you, Gurjeet, and good evening, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here to provide an update on the new Peel Memorial and our plans to enhance cancer care services in our community. Let me first start with Peel Memorial. The exciting transformation of Peel Memorial, into Brampton's new hospital is currently in what we call the detailed planning stage of the Ministry of Health's required three-stage capital planning process. And at this stage, we look at the physical space, the staffing needs, equipment needs, and other requirements that are needed to create an initial design for the new site. And at the same time, we're also planning for all of the clinical programs to be located on the new hospital campus. Over the past couple of months, we held a few visiting sessions with staff, physicians, and volunteers, during which Osler's redevelopment team and HOK architects gathered critical input on the hospital's new look, its feel, and function. This vital feedback will help ensure that we are designing a hospital and building it to fully serve our community. The wealth of insights gained from these sessions has really helped us to establish a foundation for the design of the new Peel Memorial Hospital that is appropriate for the patients and families, and as well as the staff and supporting workplace for Osler's team members. As we move into more planning and as we look at the exciting transformation of this new hospital, we are committed to help keeping you informed. And over the next few months, Osler will be engaging with the community in various ways to share information, to show you some renderings of the building, and to hear your feedback. Please stay tuned for more details. They will be posted on our website and communicated in a number of ways. We really look forward to you coming out to some of these events. The next important milestone in the project is called a Request for Qualifications, also known as an RFQ. This is the first step in the process to select a team with both the construction expertise and financial capacity to take on a project of this size and scope. The RFQ is expected to be issued later this year. Once all of the RFQ submissions are received, Osler will work directly with Infrastructure Ontario to pre-qualify those firms that meet certain criteria and invite them to respond to our request for proposals. The new Peel Memorial Hospital will be a multi-story tower. As I mentioned to Andrew, it will be built on the northwest corner of the existing site and connected to the existing building on a couple of floors. The area of the property offers the best and most direct connection to our existing building, and as I mentioned, really provides patients, families, and staff to move between both buildings very conveniently. The added inpatient capacity at Peel Memorial will address the significant need for more specialized care for patients requiring longer stays before they can safely return home or to other care facilities in the community. Now I want to switch our focus to another important project underway, our Cancer Care Center. At Osler, we already provide a wide range of quality, compassionate cancer services, including prevention, screening, diagnosis, and treatment, with a focus on care closer to home. Unfortunately, however, Osler does not currently provide radiation therapy, which means patients must travel outside of our community for this treatment during a very vulnerable time. And we recognize that this is a real burden on both patients and their families as patients need to move and travel down either south to downtown or east to Sunnybrook. While we don't currently provide radiation therapy, this is what we're planning in our new state-of-the-art Cancer Care Center. We're working very closely with Cancer Care Ontario, and we are proposing to house this new Cancer Care Center in a new building at our Brampton Civic site. We are currently moving through the next stage of planning for this project, and again, we'll be sure to keep you completely informed of the latest developments. Through both the transformation of Peel Memorial and the new Comprehensive Cancer Care Center, Osler is building healthcare capacity to serve you, your families, and your neighbors well into the future. So I really thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. I look forward to answering any further questions you may have. Now it's back to you, Gurjeet. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. For those who have just joined, if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, press *3 on your phone. This will bring you into the question queue to speak with one of Osler's leaders. We kindly ask that you keep your question brief so that we can get to as many as possible. We would now like to ask our second polling question. To answer the question, please press the number on your phone that corresponds with your answer. Our second question is, do you or your family use the emergency department and urgent care center wait time clocks on Osler's website? Press 1 if your answer is yes, I always check wait times. Press 2 if your answer is sometimes I check wait times. Press 3 if your answer is no, I do not check wait times. Press 4 if your answer is I did not know we had access to check these wait times. Let me repeat the question and your response choices. Our second question is, do you or your family use the emergency department and urgent care center wait time clock on Osler's website? Press 1 if your answer is yes, I always check wait times. Press 2 if your answer is sometimes I check wait times. Press 3 if your answer is no, I do not check wait times. Press 4 if your answer is I did not know we had access to these wait times. We would like to open the line to answer more of your questions. Please press *3 on your phone to bring you into the question queue and speak with Osler's leaders. Again, we kindly ask that you keep your question brief so that we can get to as many as possible. Our next question is from Gina, and I will pass that over to Frank. Gina, good evening.
Good evening. My question is about vaccines. I am over 65, healthy. I have a chronic condition, hypertension. And my last vaccine, which was my first bivalent, was 7 months ago. So technically, I think I'm due for another vaccine. However, since the numbers seem to be down, my question is, should I get it or should I wait closer to October when we're into more virus-type environment? And if your advice is no, I should get it. My other question is, my last bivalent was Moderna. Does it matter if I get Pfizer or Moderna this time?
Well, thank you for your question, Gina, and I want to compliment you and commend you for being fully vaccinated, having had 5 vaccines of the various COVID-19 strains, and the fact that you've had a bivalent vaccine bears well for your immunity. There's a lot of controversy on whether you should go and have a shot now. Many would say that it is best to wait and see how things evolve over the course of the summer. Certainly, there are more viruses in the fall, and this has to do both with the weather change, but also with the fact that children are going back to school, and we're going from the outside environment back into the indoor environment. My recommendation would be that you speak to your family doctor and you have a conversation with your family doctor with regards to whether you should get a 6th vaccine now or wait for the fall. Most people will wait for the fall. I do encourage you, though, and I'm pretty sure you're that type of diligent individual, that you do get a flu shot this fall. We're going to wait and see how the prevalence of the COVID strains within the community evolve over the course of the summer. And stay tuned. I know that the Medical Officer of Health for Ontario will be coming out with recommendations in the months to come regarding fall vaccination. So keep your eyes glued to the news screen, and I'm sure that there will be some very pertinent advice coming out in the months to come.
Thank you, Dr. Martino. Our next comment is from Maria. Good evening, Maria.
My positive comment is, or feedback is, I would like to say kudos, my gratitude and my gratefulness to the staff of both hospitals. Unfortunately for me, or fortunately for me, I have the experience of being a patient in both hospitals. On April 18, I had the stent removal done at Brampton Civic, and then last April 27, I had my laparoscopy surgery at the Etobicoke General. I have never seen a hospital that has not only shown its commitment to provide the best service to the patients as well as to the families who are there to provide support, emotional support to the patient. I've never seen a staff that is not only friendly, but they're very knowledgeable in their field. I have never seen hospitals that have been providing awesome service to the community. So I hope you guys will be given enough kudos and enough gratefulness by both communities in Brampton as well as here in Etobicoke, because during the pandemic, we know you have done your best to provide the best, and still you are trying to accommodate any emergency that could happen to an individual. So thank you very much for such great and exemplary service to us.
Well, thank you very much for those comments. I can guarantee that we will assure that they get to our teams that took care of you and the entire staff at the hospital. It's those kind of compliments, those kind of comments that really keep the teams resilient. They allow them to go in, day out, and provide exemplary service to our community. So on behalf of the team that took care of you, a sincere thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martino. Thank you, Maria. Our next question is an online question, and it's from Jeff. Jeff is asking, since we are paying extra on our taxes for hospital redevelopment projects, can we be exempt to pay for parking at the two hospitals in Brampton if we show proof of residence? I will pass that on to Anne and Ken.
Hi, good evening, Jeff, and thank you for your question. First of all, we're really grateful for the tremendous commitment from the Brampton City Council and for community members like yourself to ensure a municipal contribution towards the required local share for both our new Peel Memorial Hospital and the Comprehensive Cancer Care Center. They're a little bit separated between, the support through the taxes and then for our parking. So Osler, like other Ontario hospitals, also relies on parking revenue to help support the provision of vital patient care and services to our communities, as well as maintaining Osler sites in our facilities. So the revenues that we collect from parking rates generate valuable funds for our hospitals and help support the delivery of patient care, including services and infrastructure that are not funded by the Ontario government. We really appreciate your question and understand, and I'm really also happy that you asked this, because it always is a question that comes up, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
And I would just add as well, Jeff, the thanks. We are speaking to you today from the current site of Peel Memorial, which was made possible thanks to past municipal contributions and contributions from the community as well. And that's been incredibly important, as we've all known, especially these last couple of years. So we very much appreciate the question.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Ken. Our next question is from Susan, and I will pass it on to Frank and Anne. Good evening, Susan.
Good evening.
Please go ahead with your question.
I've been a resident of Brampton now for 30 years. I'm just wondering why it's taken so long to have, I know it's all political, I know it has to do with so much, but why we've waited so long for a second hospital. I was pretty much raised in Mississauga, and they've had a second hospital for like 20 years, and our population is not any less than Mississauga now, I think, and we're still growing. So I just wondered why it's just taken so long.
Well, thank you for your question. I can say that as a hospital CEO, what keeps me up at night is capacity, making sure we have enough beds and enough services for the community. I also arrived here in Brampton about the same time you did, just over 30 years ago. And at the time, I worked at the Peel Memorial Hospital, which is on the site that we are now, where the second hospital will be built. You're right, there is some politics ingrained in this, but you can guarantee that this team has been advocating for this hospital for quite a while. I was part of the team that built the present Peel Memorial Center, and I still remember that we actually did propose beds on this particular site more than 10 years ago when the plans were put in play after we completed the Brampton Civic site, which was one of the largest hospital builds at the time in the province and continues to be one of the largest. We see this community, as you said, grow larger than Mississauga, and the need for healthcare services will continue to evolve as each of those spaces that we call open fields now become subdivisions with families that will require healthcare. Eventually, we will need a third hospital, and that certainly has not eluded us as leaders within this hospital system, the Osler Hospital System. We'll be working on that plan as well. To some degree, we're always chasing the numbers, aren't we? Because we are a growth community, and we'll continue to be very strong advocates with the Ministry of Health to ensure that we have the appropriate services and the beds that are needed by the community. Anne, would you like to add anything?
Thanks, Frank, for that. And Frank is absolutely right. We have had planning in place for 10 years that spoke to inpatient beds on this property. And through some of the advocacy of work that we have done, we were able, from that initial plan, to actually double the number of inpatient beds that we are building on the site. We are also including some space within this new building to for more expansion for up to an additional 100 beds on this site. And I think the other thing that some people may not know is that with the building of the new Peel Memorial site, we will be opening up some space at Brampton Civic, which will also provide us with an opportunity to open up some new medicine beds on that site to give us additional capacity over at Brampton Civic. So patience is key to these projects. They do take a long time to plan and build, and there is a reason for that. Hospitals are one of the most complex buildings you will ever be able to plan and build, and it does take quite a while to get through the design process and then the construction process because they are very complicated. But we are on your side, on the community side. We are constantly advocating for support for capacity within our organization and within this community, and we will continue to do so. So really appreciate your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. We would now like to announce the results from our second polling question. Our second question was, do you or your family use the emergency department and urgent care center wait time clocks on Osler's website? 9% said yes, I always check wait times. 6% said sometimes I check wait times. 35% said no, I do not check wait times. And 50% said I did not know we had access to these wait times. We would like to continue to answer more of your questions. Please press *3 on your phone to bring you into the question queue and speak with Osler's leaders. Again, we kindly ask that you keep your questions brief so that we can get to as many as possible. Before we take more phone and web questions, I'd like to invite Mary Jane McNally, Osler's Chief Patient Experience Officer, to say a few words.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I would first like to take an opportunity to recognize tonight's moderator, Brigitte Courbain, for her terrific help in moderating this event. I also want to acknowledge all of the valued members of Osler's Patient and Family Advisory Council. In their voluntary role, they ensure that the voices of patients and families are part of Osler's decision-making, and their insights, their wisdom, really do help us connect more deeply with our broader community. So thank you. We are looking for more volunteers, so please check out the website if you want to offer your time. At Osler, we understand the importance of family presence, not only in guiding Osler's policies, but also in a patient's healing and well-being. We recognize that limiting visitors throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, although necessary, has been difficult, very difficult, and we appreciate all of the support, understanding, and flexibility. With the number of reported COVID-19 cases and outbreaks stabilizing in our hospitals and in the community, Osler has moved to a modified version of our pre-pandemic family presence or visitor policy. Osler's visiting hours have now returned to being 24/7, so open at all times. Exemptions apply in some units and areas, so please continue to check Osler's website before coming to the hospital. The number of visitors or our essential care partners allowed at a patient's bedside at one time has not changed. We will continue to monitor the situation closely and reevaluate and refine our policy as necessary. At this time, it is still mandatory for anyone coming on the premises to wear a mask, and we are in the process of reevaluating our policy to determine if this is still continuing. We will let our community know of any changes through our regular channels. Lastly, we still ask all of those planning to visit a loved one to not come if you feel unwell or have symptoms such as a respiratory illness, cough, shortness of breath, fever, gastrointestinal illnesses. If you need any support or have any questions about your care or the care of a loved one at Osler, our Patient Experience Office is there to help. Please check our website for the various ways to contact our office. Thank you for all of your support as we work towards returning to a much less restrictive, but still safe environment in our hospitals. I will now turn it back to our moderator, Gurjeet.
Thank you, Mary Jane. I would now like to introduce Ken Mayhew, Osler Foundation's President and CEO, to say a few words. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Gurjeet, and good evening, everyone. The volunteers, a team at Osler Foundation work with community members like you to raise vital funds to support Osler's hospitals. And what many people don't realize is that 100% of the equipment in our hospitals must be funded by the community and 10% of construction costs. As you've heard from my colleagues here this evening, this is an exciting time for Osler, and that is why your support is essential, so that we can all support Osler in its transformation and ensure that our hospitals can continue to provide exceptional health care to meet the needs of our growing communities. Right now, we are moving from the planning stage of our next capital campaign into action. We've been meeting with friends and supporters, both those new to our cause and some of you who've been with us for generations, and are seeing a lot of pride and excitement for the plans my colleague Ann just described for us for the next phase of Peel Memorial Hospital, for cancer care, and for Osler. This will be our boldest fundraising campaign yet, and it's going to take all of us working together to transform healthcare for our communities, starting with Peel Memorial. Our community has a proud and strong history of giving, and we'd love to have all of you on this call join our family of supporters. You'll be in good company, including more than 1,000 Osler staff and physicians who personally donate to support their hospitals. That is very unusual and a testament to the caliber of people across our organization, their belief in Osler, and the vital work that we will do together. You'll be among the proud community supporters who recently raised almost $4 million at our Holy Gala fundraiser a few weeks ago. This Canadian record was achieved through gifts, both large and small. So please join us. You can visit oslerfoundation.org, that's oslerfoundation.org, to make a donation and to learn more about how your gift helps. Every dollar makes a difference, and we're grateful always for your support. I'd now like to turn things back to Gurjeet.
Thank you, Ken. We sincerely appreciate everything the Foundation does to support our hospitals and, in turn, our community. I heard about the amazing Holy Gala event, and I'm astounded at the funds raised. We would like to open the line to answer more of your questions. Please press *3 on your phone to bring you into the question queue and speak with Osler's leaders. Again, we kindly ask that you keep your question brief so that we can get to as many as possible. Our next question is from Jacqueline, and this question is for Mary Jane. Good evening, Jacqueline.
Hello, how are you doing this evening?
Good, thank you.
So my question, I believe, has already been answered, but it was about mask mandates and whether the masking will be maintained within Osler, because I feel that the most vulnerable people and sick people are going to the hospital, and therefore they should be protected. So my understanding is that at this time they are still mandatory. Is that correct?
Yes, Jacqueline, and thanks for your question. And I really appreciate your consciousness around safety and your acknowledgement of the vulnerability of patients within the hospital. So you're correct. Right now, everyone walking through the doors of the hospital is required to wear a hospital-issued mask. So not just any mask, but a hospital-issued mask, as well as conducting hand hygiene, as well as our physical distancing mandate is still in place. So we're really trying to adhere to recommendations to maintain as much safety as possible. Now, we are taking a look at some of the recommendations that are coming from Ontario Health, what our other neighboring hospitals are doing. We're being very mindful around really looking at our policy, and any changes to our mandatory masking policy, we'll be communicating that on the hospital website. But for now, mandatory masks are in place. Thank you for your commitment to safety. Thanks for your question.
Thanks, Mary Jane. Our next question is for Frank, and we have Shireen on the line. Good evening, Shireen. Hi, good evening, Shireen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead with your question.
My question is for the comprehensive cancer care. You mentioned that prevention was going to be part of its mandate. Can you tell me what sort of services and so forth they'll be offering in terms of prevention? Thank you.
Hi, Shireen, and thank you for your question. The majority of the activity on the site will be providing chemotherapy and radiation therapy. There will be research activity on the site as well. We do have a survivorship program at Osler that looks at patients who've had cancer and that are followed over time to assure that their cancer has not returned. We do have a women's clinic which will be conducting testing in the form of both Pap tests and colposcopy, and we'll also be educating, and this is most important, educating patients on cancer prevention. The majority of prevention, however, happens through your family doctor, and that is, the annual mammogram or the biannual mammogram every 2 years that you would do through an appointment with your family doctor. Osler is part of the Ontario Breast Screening Program. We have some of the best results in breast mammograms and breast cancer screening. We have what we call a DAP program where you would have your mammogram and almost immediately have a nodule or a lump biopsied and, if necessary, referred to a surgeon. We also are developing a similar program for lung nodules and for colon cancer. We do colposcopy at Osler, and that is colonoscopy at Osler, and that's a form of endoscopy that looks through your bowel to assess for cancer, especially if you're at high risk or if you've had a positive test, a fecal occult blood test. So those kind of activities will be part of our ongoing cancer prevention and treatment services, and the Cancer Center will incorporate those as well as active services in radiation therapy and chemotherapy.
Thank you, Dr. Martino. Our next question is from Ms. Henry, and this question is from Anne. Hello, Ms. Henry. Good evening. Ms. Henry, good evening. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, my question is, what is happening that's new at Etobicoke General Hospital?
Thank you, Ms. Henry. It's Anne, and thank you for asking about Etobicoke General. As you may know, we did open a new wing there in 2019 that provided, in a new emergency department, critical care, labor and delivery, neonatal intensive care unit, and some diagnostic imaging. But there are a number of things that are occurring with the Etobicoke General Hospital now. Not too long ago, we opened a renal center within our Etobicoke Wellness Center, which is the medical office building that is just to the north of the main building. And this provides dialysis services for folks in the North Etobicoke area and surrounds. We are also working very closely with our surgeons and the surgical teams and have replaced all of the OR operating room cameras and audiovisual equipment to help support surgical cases there. We're working very closely with Toronto Metropolitan University around some learning centers as we move to supporting the new medical school. That's happening both at Etobicoke General and here in the Brampton area with our two facilities. We do continue to work with the Ministry of Health on what is the next stage of redevelopment at Etobicoke General. We know we built the new wing. We know we have a tower that celebrated 50 years last year. And so we are working with the Ministry of Health on what would be the next step of redevelopment on that campus. We know that it will be inpatient beds, probably a redevelopment of some of our OR suites and diagnostic imaging. So we will continue to work with the Ministry of Health to get that project on the books and moving forward with that hospital. So there's actually quite a bit happening there. Lots of it are bits and pieces as we help support some of the existing programs and moving toward a new tower in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, everyone, for your insightful questions tonight. Just a reminder that if we weren't able to get to you tonight, we are gathering your information so that we can get back to you and answer the questions you have as best we can. We now have one final polling question to ask you tonight, and we appreciate your feedback as it will help us plan future Osler events. To answer the question, please press the number on your phone that corresponds with your answer. Our third and final polling question is, did you find tonight's telephone town hall informative? Press 1 if your answer is yes, this has been informative and I plan to participate again. Press 2 if your answer is somewhat. I found tonight's event fairly helpful. Press 3 if your answer is no, I didn't feel it was informative. The question again is, did you find tonight's telephone town hall informative? Press 1 if your answer is yes, this has been informative and I plan to participate again. Press 2 if your answer is somewhat. I found tonight's event fairly helpful. Press 3 if your answer is no, I didn't feel it was informative. I will now turn it over to Dr. Martino for some final thoughts.
Thank you again, Gurjeet, for moderating tonight's telephone town hall. You've done a wonderful job, and we really appreciate your contribution, also as a member of Osler's Patient and Family Advisory Council. Thank you also to Stuart Johnson from Osler's Board of Directors and Ken Mayhew, Osler Foundation's President and CEO, for being here this evening. And thank you to my colleagues, Tony Razzo, Ann Ford, and Mary Jane McNally for providing updates and for answering your questions. Tonight, we've reached almost 11,000 households throughout this past hour, and that's with the Toronto Maple Leaf game on as a competition for us. Thank you so much for your participation, and thank you to everyone who called in with questions and comments. We will be hosting another Osler Telephone Town Hall in the coming months, and we hope you can join us again for that event. On behalf of Osler's staff, physicians, and volunteers, I offer our deepest thanks for your ongoing support of Osler and our healthcare teams. Have a great evening, and go Leafs go. Take care. Good night.
This wraps up Osler's telephone town hall. Thank you to all of our speakers for your insightful updates tonight, and thank you to our community for your great questions and active participation. The recording of tonight's call will be available on Osler's website in the next few days. If you have questions we did not get to, please email them to publicrelations@williamoslerhs.ca, and we will respond to them in the coming days. Once again, that's publicrelations, one word, williamoslerhs.ca. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your evening.